Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Micro Success Secrets podcast, where we focus on business, psychology, and marketing, and how you can use that in your business daily and long term. Today, I'm talking again with Tom Matzen, who has started multiple businesses scaled to 7 and 8 figures and beyond. His personal coaching clients have generated more than 100 million in sales in dozens of industries, a 2-time bestseller. International bestseller, with 3 books. Tom has shared his message to more than 100,000 entrepreneurs on 4 continents and hundreds of TV, radio, print, and podcast interviews. He now leads an emerging global enterprise with a mission to empower 10,000 entrepreneurs to build global movements and 7 and 8 figure businesses by December 2024. Welcome, Chief Movement Maker of Embark $1 Million Authority, Tom Matzen. Welcome
hey,
again,
Tad,
Tom.
that was so well done. My mom would be so proud of you. Way to go.
Oh, and thank you very much. I want to let everybody know that this is part 2. We did one before.
Dieu for the Canadians out there. Part Dieu. Yes, indeed.
If anybody hasn't seen the first one, I will provide a link to that. You can go back and listen to that. But this one is special because we are going to look at a matrix that helps strategic planning, or the Strategic Planning Alliance matrix, and a couple of uses of it. And I've been looking forward to this one for a month now. So if you want to just jump in and let us know a little history about it, and we'll just go from there.
Absolutely. One of the tools that I was looking for as we built various businesses and help clients scale theirs was a way to make complex decisions on multiple variables simple. And what I mean by that is, in the real world of building a business, you have more than one thing to decide, right? You know, when you're a solopreneur, it's like, I need some clients, and that's all you're focusing on, and away you go. And good for you. Nothing wrong with that. But as you're starting to build a business and you're scaling it and you're building a team, you've got multiple areas to work on. And within each area, you have multiple things to work on. And I've been on the lookout for years for a good tool. And one of our partners in a golf training center business used to be a senior, they called it technical assistant. He was like the executive assistant to the senior VP of planning for a little startup called Intel. You might have heard about them. They're doing okay.
Yeah, I think we've heard of them.
Yeah. And they use this tool. They call it a strategic planning matrix to plan their company 3 years out. Now, the way we use it is more like 3 months out and 6 months out, but they used it 3 months out. They were able to sustain double-digit growth for a multi-billion-dollar company for more than 2 decades using this tool. I mean, it's a phenomenal tool that can scale in complexity and detail, but the heart behind it is very, very usable. I'm going to show you in a moment a couple of examples, and we'll go through them and show how it works. And for all the listeners, we'll have a link for the Google Sheet or the spreadsheet below, depending on what format we have it saved in, maybe both, so that you can play with this and modify it and adjust it and use it. I love it. Every time we use it, I can tell you the most common reaction among our senior planning team is, why aren't we using this more often? It's like one of these tools where it's work to use. Let's be clear. Any great tools are work to use, but it's got such powerful leverage, and it has another big advantage. You can not only rank multiple variables in multiple areas over multiple criteria, you can have multiple people rank it and then do a weighted average. So if you choose to, you can get the consensus of your senior team. Or when we first started using it, Tad, it was a franchise company, and we had all the franchise owners complete it. And then we took and did the mathematical averages. And so literally it was the consensus of all of our individual franchise owners.
Of the entire organization. Just right in front of me. That would be awesome.
And so even the people that aren't into numbers were excited about that, because it wasn't Tom's opinion, right, or Tad's opinion anymore. It was the opinion of the consensus of the leaders of the organization. So I love this. I've been using it ever since. Literally, I in advance of today's meeting, I brought up a couple of examples. But yesterday, we're doing a strategic planning session with our key partners on our main business. We have 8 divisions. And we're scaling each of those 8 divisions simultaneously. And as you know, we have a nonprofit that's also scaling globally right now. So, we use this as a month-to-month tool. You'll see it's not day to day. It's
Okay.
not designed to be day to day. It's designed to say, okay, what are all your variables? What are all your issues? Let's rank them, and then let's figure out what to tackle in what order. And then you revisit it.
Awesome.
Right? Then you revisit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's jump in and take a look at this. Depending on your screen, you're not going to be able to see this in super great detail, but it'll give you a feel for it. I'll show you the broad spectrum, and then we'll zoom in on some of the parts here. Okay, so in this particular case, this was the tool we used to take our company public on the Toronto Stock Exchange. It was an indoor golf training center franchise. The brand was called Midas at the time, and we renamed it when we went public. But so Midas THQ Strategic Planning. And you'll see on the left, there was a marketing section, a product section, a system section, and a management section. And so that's the big buckets we divided it. And then within marketing, there were 3 areas: clients for life, lead conversion, and lead generation. And then in the product section, adding wow, building value, and getting feedback. In the system section, ongoing systems and information technology. And in the management section, it was all headquarters management. This was a franchise company, and we were focusing on that. Okay. The initiatives themselves, column C, we'll leave for a second because they're going to vary from project to project for every one of you that are using this tool. And the actual names that are here won't make a lot of sense necessarily, but that's where you'd list your individual initiatives. And then you've got a type category, which if you hover on it, says innovation or optimization, right? Optimization is improving an existing process. So sometimes it's a new one you got to create from scratch, and sometimes you're improving an existing one. Right. And then sourcing, if you hover over that, partner at Midas who will take the lead, right? Who on your team will be the ultimate leader of the project? Not necessarily the person executing it, but the person accountable, the senior leader accountable. And, you know, in this case, you'll see it's Tom Allen, Tom Allen, Tom Allen, Tom Allen, Tom Allen. Okay. It was one of us. So here we got some Tim down here, but basically most of them were one of 2 of us. Then the magic section here, we'll talk about this in detail in a section, 5 ranking criteria, bottom line 4 of them, and top line 1 of them, and then a total score. And what happens in here is you score each initiative on a scale of 1 to 5. Okay. 1 to 5. And it's subjective. It's up to the opinion of the person filling it out. So when you're doing this across a team, it doesn't matter if you never score a thing of 5, you score 4 is the highest you'd ever score across the board because you're a former CPA and that's the way you look at the world. Right. Like a CPA will look at it more critically. Our CPAs always did. But it doesn't matter as long as you relatively rank each thing the same. Right. As long as you relatively rank it, this system works. So that's one of the things I love about this model. If you're a perpetual optimist, you're the marketing guy in the team, and you know everything's a 10 out of 10. Well, that's okay as long as when you're scoring something an 8, you know that other people might score a 3, right? As long as you're consistent in how you do it. Here we go 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5. And then there's a bonus section at the top here called score weighting. And the CPAs that are tuning into this will love this. You can put a weighting average to rank each of these 5 initiatives. So, so you can assign higher priorities. So for here, the bottom line in this example was increased membership, increasing revenues. Oh, I'm gonna get this hover out of here. Lower costs and make it more scalable. Put cash in jeans fast, which we defined as 90 days or less. And the top line creates a strategic competitive advantage. Okay. And so we decided that a strategic competitive advantage and increasing membership were the 2 highest priorities for this ranking. Okay. Right. And then below it, go ahead.
So let me ask a quick question. So, I mean, this right here is from like 0.1 to 1.0, something like that.
Yeah, we use it 0.9 and down. 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6. You can do whatever you want. The way the formulas are set up with this, you can do whatever you want. But we basically put 0.9, then 0.8. And you'll see the first 2 were tied for 0.9 because we felt we really wanted both. We wanted something to have a strategic competitive advantage because that means long-term we're better off. And we wanted to focus on increasing membership at this particular case. That was our core revenue generator. Okay. And then the next one was putting cash in jeans fast. And then increasing gross revenues overall. Okay. And then the last one was lowering costs and make things more scalable. You don't have to keep these four. These four bottom line initiatives. I recommend you keep the top line initiative because creating a strategic competitive advantage is always a smart thing to do. But the other four you might want to change. It might be net profit. It might be gross sales. It might be memberships. It might be monthly recurring revenue, right? You know your metrics of your business best. The idea is, what are the four most important bottom line criteria that you want to decide your initiatives on?
Right.
So many times when we would do this exercise, cash fast was the top initiative. And then profit was the, margin, EBITDA was the next one, right? We didn't care about gross, we cared about net. And we didn't care about net so much as fast cash, right? When you're getting going, that's often the case, right? But as you grow, lowering your costs and making your business more scalable becomes even more important in order to grow. Right. And we're using scalable in the true sense of the word. You get new clients, less input from the senior leadership team every time you get new clients. Not scalable, meaning grow, which is how a lot of entrepreneurs use the term scalable instead of grow. They're misusing the term. Like, that's increasing revenues. You see here that we call it increasing revenues, right? So those are the categories. Then you do your weighting, and you can play with these variables as you wish, of course. And then you go through and you list every initiative you want. In this case, this is like the master plan. I'll show you a simple version in a moment, but here we have the master plan of the entire organization, and we've listed all of the things in it. And so I won't go through all of these, but let's just take an example of lead conversion, member lead conversion plan. So this is optimization, meaning we had a member lead conversion plan. We want to improve it. And whoever ranked this, which might have been me at this particular time, ranked it 5, 5, 5, 5, and 5. So 19.5 becomes the highest possible score with this weighting. And you'll see that one was weighted 19.5. Okay. The score column, we also have colors in here. It's from green, as in go, 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 to yellow to red. And you'll see how we use that in a moment. But for now, just know that that's what it does. Okay. And it doesn't matter what the score is, it matters what the relative score is. So if you were in charge of marketing, you could then go and take each of these areas, right? And I'm just going to take the marketing ones right now and go through and sort the data, right? By, in this case, total score. So column K, sort by column K, high to low, and go. And now it's sorted. And you immediately have, for the marketing department, your top 5 initiatives, then your next 3, and then your next whatever, in order.
You prioritize,
You immediately prioritize. Now okay, in this case, I've got 5 equally weighted initiatives: online back 9, member lead conversion plan, workshop prospect lead, workshop lead gen plan. Like, these will mean something to me, but they won't mean something to most of the viewers right now. Right.
But it's gig specific. I mean, it's whatever it is that you've got in front of you.
And then I'll just unsort that, put it back the way it is on that side. So, and the same thing for your product development cycle, the same thing for systems. This one is actually sorted already. The systems one, you can see it's dark. I don't know if that was done deliberate or if that was just done, that's actually the way it happened to work out. Look at that. Because these are still category organized on the left. So number 1 was a communications plan system. The next was CRM system. Next was critical success factors or dashboards. Next was training certification. And then, you can still put notes in what that means when people are filling it out, so that on your team, you know what you mean by that. Quality assurance review and so on. And then management strategies down below. So when you're doing it with multiple variables and multiple people, you have everyone complete the sheet and not sort it. And then you create a master sheet that does mathematical averages of each of these answers. And you can either do the average by individual column, or you can do the average just by total score. Right. And so let's say you've got 10 people completed it. What we would do is we would have our CFO post all 10 sheets in here. And then our, the guys that are great at Excel would just go and take on workout formulas and add it all up.
Would do the spreadsheet work for you.
Yeah. And if you don't have someone, $30 an hour in India, you get a guru who can figure it out. It's unbelievable. It's like $200 an hour for Excel here.
Right.
And overnight, they
Right.
have it all done for you. It's all sorted and beautifully averaged out. So whether you have 10 people involved that you want to get involved in the decision, or just one, just you just want to get clear on what should I be focusing on. And you can also, of course, do an aggregate sort for the entire categories, right? We chose to do this one by category. So that's why there's a blank line in between. But you could easily remove that blank line and sort the whole thing. In fact, you
Right.
probably don't even have to remove it from a sort perspective, right? If I go down here and I go data and sort by sort range K, and I go high to low and I hit sort, boom, right? There it is all the way through. Oh, it's interesting how it keeps the green at the top of each one. That's funny. So the coloring obviously gets thrown off when you do that, but other than that, the numbers don't, right?
Right.
Here are your highest priorities. I mean, there are about 60 different initiatives here. And this tells us what the top 10 are. And what we found in a practical use, Tad, was you just started on the top 10. Because by the time the next quarter comes around, you may reassess this and completely change what's next. But the beauty is you're doing the 10 most important, right? You know you are, because you've looked at it, you've assessed it based on your overall feeling of it. And there's a couple of little specific tips when you're doing it that I want to share to make it easier, because what happens when people are not numbers people is they get very intimidated by this process. Like, well, how do I know? How do I know? How do I know? I don't know. How do I know? Right? Like, how do I know? Right? So what we do in a section is we simply say, if you take clients for life and you've got these 5 initiatives, you simply say, okay, if you could only do one of them, which would be the one you would do? Right? You can see here, I ranked this one 5, 5, 5, 5, 3. So obviously, clients for life rated really freaking high for whoever did this ranking system. Increasing revenues, look, by definition, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. None of them made the list if they weren't a 5. Look at the list. Well, that makes sense because it's a marketing category. Like it's only on the list because it increases revenue. That's the whole idea. But you'll notice some of them under lower cost and scalable are a 1, and some are a 5.
Bunch of 3s. Yeah.
Right. So it's all over the map. The way we do this, 3 is neutral. If you're not sure, you give it a 3.
Okay.
Okay. And if it's sort of good, it's a 4. If it's awesome, it's a 5. And the same on the downside. Right. Lower costs and make it scalable. What's this one is a 1? EWGA member lead conversion plan. So that's Executive Women's Golf Association member lead conversion plan. That's dealing with a nonprofit, 50,000 members all over the globe. No wonder it's not lower cost and scalable. Right? It's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot of freaking work, but increase revenue 5, put cash in jeans 5, strategic competitive advantage 5. But that one and increasing our own membership hurt it. So it only scored a 14.4 on that ranking as a result, right? So the beauty about this is you can look at it and it's not set in stone. These are just numbers. You can play these numbers. You can put a 3 back in there, change your mind. Well, now all of a sudden,
and you can change them monthly when you reanalyze it. I mean, because things change.
Exactly. And we found that doing the full analysis every 3 months worked really good. I wish I had the discipline to do it monthly. I think that would be phenomenal to do it monthly, especially if you narrow it down. If you narrow it down. So let me show you the narrowed down version. Here's an example. This is for something we've done recently, our Strategic Alliance live deal making event. This was a planning matrix over some strategies we were doing. And then we just put placeholders, stick to top 10 on the rest all the way through. We were demonstrating how to use this tool. And so we simplified it. We scored it out of 3. We had the weighting average was more dramatic, but still important. Was it fun? Is it cash in the next 90 days? Did total cash? Did it bring leverage? Strategic competitive advantage, same general idea. And then each of these initiatives over here, this was a deal. So we were teaching people to rank their various deals coming out of our deal making summit. Right. And we shared this template with all of the attendees. And in the last couple of hours of the last day of the 3-day event, they would go through and they would score all of their various deals. And so they would leave the 3-day event knowing exactly what their top deals are,
what they needed to do next.
Yep.
What was important, what was on the top of their list.
Yeah, because because you've done a lot of strategic alliances and joint ventures. When you get like 50, 60 opportunities, you can't do 50, 60 at the same time.
Oh, I may take this after we get through talking and run through it, because my docket is full.
Yeah. And once you, like, there's a perfect example. Once you appreciate the power of strategic alliances, that's all you want to do to grow your business. But you only have so many hours, right? You only have so many people on your team. You only have so many resources. For a lot of entrepreneurs, they're responsible for strategic alliances. They take the lead on that. And for years, I'm super excited now. We're hiring 4 people to replace me. I was like, yay!
Only took 4? Golly.
Yeah. Well, just on the deal making. but that's what it's going to take, because we need a senior person and a support person to do the deals and find the partners. And we need a senior person and a support person to execute. So when we look at it strategically, because it's so impactful in our business, we realized, we need to get 4 people on board, but it'll generate at least an extra 10 million in sales the next 12 months for us. So the cost of 4 people, 2 senior, 2 junior, you can do the math. We'll be well ahead of the game.
Super return on investment on that.
Yeah. And that came from a strategic planning exercise internally, where we looked at what are the areas to grow the most, right? Within our 8 divisions, how are we going to grow the most? And that was one of them, because, done right, strategic alliances are self-funded growth. You know that, right? And anyone that's tuning in, if you do strategic alliances and joint ventures, you know that. I read a fascinating article on Rihanna yesterday in Forbes. She is now worth $1.8 billion, the singer, Rihanna.
No joke.
Billion. She is the second wealthiest female entertainer in the world, only behind Oprah. Only behind Oprah. And 1.7 billion is 2 strategic alliances she's done, one on makeup, one on clothes.
Wow. Well,
less
done,
than 100
Rihanna.
million is her music, which is huge. She has millions and millions of followers, and she uses her music and all that. I mean, very obviously accomplished singer, but she's done 2 strategic alliances, and the big one was cosmetics. And she developed a line of cosmetics for women of color. And her partner is that massive brand builder, BHMV, or whatever they're called, the one that owns all the luxury brands around the globe. That's her partner. And they've created this multi-billion-dollar venture in the last 3 years, through COVID, through all the chaos, all this stuff, one strategic alliance. So, more than 100 times her net worth doing a joint venture. Well, the article was lamenting her fans weren't getting as much music as they wanted because she was so busy. I'm like, I don't think Rihanna cares. I don't think Rihanna cares a lot. She's creating a legacy that'll last generations because of strategic alliances. So, from an overall point of view, the key that I love about this tool is you can play with it and change it. Like, feel free. We'll have an actual live version here that's unlocked. Play with it all you want. Although if you're watching and you're a CPA, you got enough to create this on your own from scratch, but why not take the leverage of the tool, make it easier for you?
Yeah. Just save a little bit of time and just copy it. Yeah. It's
the principle. And a couple of things about this that I really like. Having 4 bottom line initiatives and 1 top line initiative seems to be the right combination. Some people do it with 3, some people do it with 8. It's always my chief operations officer always wants more categories. He always wants more categories. But what we found is adding more categories doesn't give you more clarity. Well,
I think at some point you're going to hit diminishing returns, and it's just going to make it.
Yeah, or they're just another way of saying the same thing you've just said in the other category. So when you're picking your categories, look for things that add clarity. The other thing is you also need to pick categories that are what's the best way to say this? That are in the context of where the business is now, right? Like you saw fun was one of the rankings on the deal sheets. Well, what's fun
Right.
got to do with making money? Well, on the surface, not much, but strategic alliance partners can be a pain in the ass or a total pleasure. Like there's a huge range. There's not a little range. There's a huge range. And who wants to spend 10, 20, 30 hours a month with someone who's a pain in the ass?
Exactly. I mean, the question that I ask on the podcast is, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Well, if you don't want to get out in the bed in the morning because your people are a pain in the butt, then it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt your business.
Absolutely. So fun. Even though most people listening to this are money people and numbers people, do not underestimate the power of ranking fun or some version thereof in your criteria. You want your team inspired. You want your partners inspired. You want your vendors inspired. And fun can be one of those things. We recommend every business to have a cause they contribute to, a strategic philanthropy cause. One of the criteria is always fun for the founders. It needs to be a cause that inspires you. Right?
Absolutely. If you don't like fun, I'll throw this in there. If you don't like fun, use passion. I mean, a lot of people would prefer passion.
Yep.
Great. Use that. But the idea is the same. It's got to get you up out of bed. It's got to get you going. Yeah. Or eventually you're just not going to do it as much. So I love that category.
And for those of you that are working with clients who continue to forget that saving cost is like a force multiplier versus more gross revenue, right? You save 100,000 to the bottom line. It's like $1 million of gross for most businesses.
Right.
Make sure you've got one of your criteria around saving costs, around saving costs, not just growing, but saving, because sometimes some of the best initiatives have nothing to do with getting new customers. You guys know that, or you wouldn't be tuning in to Tad's podcast on a regular basis, right? Sometimes some of the best initiatives are cost savings initiatives. I just saw with my son, he's a huge Elon Musk fan, and he's all over space travel and all the rockets and everything.
Right.
And I just saw a YouTuber got a private tour of SpaceX, and he's published 3 60-minute videos, all 3 hours of interviews with Elon, walking around the facility. And it is
I bet it's great.
It's staggering, the details around cost optimization. It's like a master class in finance, and it's a rocket ship guy and a YouTuber. And I'm sitting there going, this should be mandatory in every finance training program at every university to watch this, because his whole thing is you can't get to Mars if you don't get the cost per 1,000 pounds of thrust down, or whatever the term was he used. And so everything he talked about was how he did that, and the 5 criteria he used, and how it worked, and what order they did the criteria. And, these guys, this is a YouTube geek who loves his stuff and films his stuff. So they were talking about gimbals, rotating gimbals on the rockets, and why are they not rotating? And he's like, well, because if you have to rotate the gimbal, then there's more complexity, there's more cost, and your cost per 1,000 goes. And it was just this fascinating exercise. I mean, he's going to get to Mars by lowering the cost per rocket engine.
Yeah.
Not by anything else. He says the design is the easy part. It's the manufacturing that's the tough part to get someone to build a scalable rocket to go to Mars. Well, what's one of the first big things he did? Anybody tuning in? He made the rockets reusable.
Yeah.
First one ever. Ever.
No, I remember that. That's
right?
what hooked me. That's what hooked me on SpaceX. When
Same
I saw
here.
the first one land, you gotta be kidding. And, yeah.
And within 10 feet, within not just land, but within 10 feet of where the damn thing took off, right? Like it was like, holy cow, right? Well, guess what? He started off somewhere early in the interview. He said, well, can you imagine you took a flight to London from New York and then they threw the plane out? How expensive travel would be?
Yeah.
We don't even bat an eye of, like, that would be insane, throwing the plane out, flying from London to New York. But until Elon came along, that's what they did for all rockets.
Yeah.
So lowering costs, like it's such an important metric. And if you've got a marketing driven leader or client or CEO who's driven on getting new clients, great. That's a big part of the growth picture, but lowering costs can be one. And of course, removing complexity, building scalability, right? If you're dealing with a manufacturing operation, some of the criteria might be very, very different
Mhm.
than if you're dealing with a information marketing operation, right?
Right.
So, adjust the criteria. We find 4 bottom line, 1 top line, and the top line one we always use is strategic competitive advantage.
Okay.
Right? You don't want this is strategic planning. You do not want to forget this isn't about the next 90 days. It's about what you're going to do the next 90 days that sets your company up for success, though.
That you're going to do past that 90 days. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is about figuring out what to do in the next 90 days, but it's not about the next 90 days. That's typically one of the criteria, right? Cash in the next 90 days, right? For most businesses, that in fact, I haven't seen anyone use this tool who doesn't keep that in there.
I imagine it would be in there, or it will be in there for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single person do that who haven't kept it in there. And you're a publicly traded company. How much profit you make the next quarter is a factor, right? Is a factor. So it is.
So yeah, it's super if you're public.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. The next thing is ranking it out of 5. I find 5 works best because 3 is the neutral and you got 2 above and 2 below. When we go above 5, it gets super subjective.
Yeah.
Right. 7 or 10 is just super subjective. And below works only if you want to make a quick decision. So you saw ranking the deals 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
1 to 3. Right. I was going to ask you about that. What
that
about
was
that?
done simply to make it easier in the exercise we were teaching people live.
Okay.
But everyone who joins our Strategic Alliance Mastermind or our $1 Million Strategic Alliance Mastermind, we teach them the 5.
You go the
5. Teach them the 5 to take a little time, wait it out, go through the process. Because depending on the decision-making personality, right? If you're a quick decision maker, you can complete the entire grid in like 2 minutes. But if you're an analyst personality, it takes you 2 hours. Well, that's not wrong or right. It's just how your personality is.
Right.
Right. And so you want to honor that and be aware of that. So if you're leading an exercise with this, make sure you got enough time and space for people to be able to answer it true to their personality.
Right.
Right. Now, for the analytics out there, it doesn't really matter whether you score something a 3 or a 4. And they're going to try and go 3.4. This system is set up the way we've done it, so you can't do partials.
So you can't do decimals. All right,
you can't do decimals. It's deliberately done that way to force those analytics into a whole number. You'll love that, Tad. Is like, nope, you got to pick 3 or 4, baby, 3 or 4. Here's the key: as long as you're consistent in how you apply that, it doesn't matter
across all your answers. Just consistency. Right.
It's all about relative ranking. Relative ranking. The power of this comes from relative ranking. And as I said earlier, if you're a pessimist in all your rankings and 3 is like a super high score out of 5, doesn't matter as long as you're consistent.
As long as you're that way on all of them. Right.
Yeah. Same if you're an optimist, but we find that works good. And then on the weighting side, a lot of people get hung up on the weighting side. It's really for the number geeks out there. It doesn't matter a hill of beans. You could put 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 in all of them.
I was about to say, if it bothers you, just put 1 across the top.
Yeah,
and you'd be
you
fine.
can put 1 right across all the top. We've had people do that, and it works totally fine because you're not putting something on those 5 criteria that you don't care about. But what we loved about it right from the get-go, and we've always used the relative ranking because of it, is it forces us as leaders to say, okay, what is most important? Right? Is cash the next 90 days most important? Most important. Well, no, actually, the business is flourishing long-term is most important. Right? Yes, it's important in the short term, but if it does that, but it sacrifices the rest. A good example is when people sell stuff on sale. Right? You teach your customers to be cheap.
Yep.
You bring a lot of cash in, but you teach your customers to be cheap, which guarantees you long-term, you're going to have a tough business unless you're Walmart.
You're headed towards the bottom of the price point.
So we all know that intuitively, and yet we don't always act that way. So just setting up the categories and the weighting is such a brilliant exercise to do for people to think about their business that way.
What is important?
What really matters? So for example, now if we were to do this prioritization exercise today in our business, and we actually are going to start a version of it this Saturday as we record this live, scalability where other people on our team can do it, not Tom and David, David, right?
Right.
Other people on our team can do it besides Tom and David, would be one of the highest ones we'd rank. Because now we're growing to the point where we realize it's not Tom and David show. It's not the Tom and David show.
Scaling becomes a higher priority than it was, say, when you first started or shortly after that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now one of my most excited thing is when I get a notification in Slack that says we got a new payment from a client and I don't know their name and I don't know the program they bought.
And you don't, it doesn't take any of your time.
Zip. I have no idea who they are. And I'm like, and our business was built on me selling those programs. So for me, I get like so excited when I see that now. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Who's this person? I have no idea. And that
scale. I want to say this. I want to interrupt you here because a lot of people that I talk to, like you said in the beginning, they merge growth and scale, but that's scale.
Yeah. Frank Bria has the best definition of this. He wrote a book called Scale. I was a business partner with him several years ago. And Frank defined it as you get a new client and there's no more time from the leader. You get a new client and no more time from the leader required to service that client. When you start to build a real business, that happens all the time. But when you're a solopreneur, it's the opposite.
Everything
right? Your CPA, you get a new client, you're the onboarding person. You go in, you have the onboarding call, you go through all the stuff, you set stuff up. There's a lot of effort for a new client in a small CPA practice. But as you start to scale and you have your team in place, then you have your onboarding specialist and you have your system support people and you have your team to do the books and there's less from you. Well, that's when you what we call become a real business, right? You become a real business. Before that, you've got a solopreneur, you got a hobby shop. That's fine. As long as that's by choice. Right. The problem most CPAs have, just like most entrepreneurs, frankly, you know this, Dad, is they don't do it by choice. They do it because of reaction, or I hate employees. I don't want to manage this, blah, 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 blah.
Or I can do it better, or I can do it faster. Yes, all those arguments.
Yeah, which is always the case if you're good at what you do, but that doesn't mean that's better for the business.
That's not your business. Yeah, that's working in instead of on, as the E-Myth methodology says.
Right. And in fact, now we have a running gag where David busts my chops. If there's anything I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing, he's busting my chops over it.
David's getting on you about it. That's great. But see, that is awesome.
It's essential.
Somebody else watching your back.
It's essential. It's essential. And the specific example came up yesterday. You'll laugh, but it's a classic entrepreneurial catch-22. Master classes. Our 3-hour master classes are our highest and best marketing contribution. I still lead most of the master classes by choice.
Yep.
But they're super high leverage, so we have no problem with that. But also, I happen to be the chief editor of the master classes. So I download the 3-hour video. I chop out the parts that shouldn't be there. I drop in the slide. I drop in the logo. It takes me about 5 minutes work, but it takes about 4.5 hours because the file sizes are so huge to crunch through.
Right.
And then
just
it's
to
up
go
and
through
running.
everything. Yeah.
And when I'm done a master class, I tend to be what I call fish food. The little floaty stuff you put in an aquarium. My brain is like fish food. So it usually is a day later before I've done that 20 minutes of work over the 4 hours. And so 24 hours later, 48 hours later, the replay goes out and away we go. No big deal. Right. David's like, why are you editing these things? Like, what are you doing, man? You're nuts. And I'm like, well, because you need to know if there was a mistake we need to cut out. That's not like, we don't tag that. We don't, while we're running live, we don't go, oh, that's a stupid question and answer. We need to cut that out.
Right.
We don't tag that.
So you do it. Yeah.
So those are, now, admittedly, they're extraordinarily rare, right? Most of it's just cutting out the dead space at the end of each hour when we take a 4-minute break. Well, guess what? I don't need to be the guy looking at the screen, seeing no audio for 4 minutes, chop, slide together. I do not need to be the guy doing that. I get it. And so I promised David the next masterclass, I'll record a training video on what I'm doing to edit it and then pass it over to the team and it'll be done.
And somebody else will do it. Right.
Yeah, simple thing and not complex. But guess what? Our whole business is like that. Our whole business is like that. One of the things that Michael Gerber, and I used to work with Michael for years as an eMyth mastery coach. One of the things Michael said was identify what the founder does often in the business that they ought not to be doing is one of the things to optimize, one of the things to put systems in place, right? It may or may not be mission critical, but if they're doing it a lot, look at that. Strategy sessions was one of those. Now we've got people doing strategy sessions, which is fantastic. It's huge leverage for our business. We cannot become a $100 million company if I do all the strategy sessions. Can't happen. Can't happen. But the methodology we created for those strategy sessions allows us to become a $100 million company. So I'm not saying to the founders out there, like, stop creating amazing systems. No, I'm saying you should only be creating amazing systems, then passing them on. Right. And that's the same thing with the matrix, right? When you're putting your ranking criteria in place, figure that out. A couple other nuances: always have a leader who's responsible. One person, even if you're a partnership, have one person where the buck stops there. When you're doing now what do you do with it and get it done? Now, okay, Tad's taking this thing on. Okay, Nina's taking the lead on this.
You got to have that. Yeah.
You got to have that. That makes Otherwise, sense. There's no board level accountability process possible. There's no senior management accountability. And it should be a senior leader. Doesn't mean they're going to be the one executing the whole project. It could be that they're just one overseeing it. But there should be someone at that senior level, not a committee, not the board. It needs to be an individual. And if it's the board, if ultimately it should be the board, pick someone on the board to be the person responsible for that initiative. And it gets them involved and it gets them inspired. And it's like, and obviously it's one that's relates to their background, right? Oh yeah. John should take that on. Absolutely. He'd be fantastic. Great. I'll put that down and we'll ask John later. You put John down and then you ask him later, say, will you take that on? Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Or not a chance, man. I'm busy. I'm flying rockets with Elon. Get out of here. Let's see what else in terms of this. So on optimizing and innovating. This one is one that frankly you could keep or take out. It's not going to make a hill of beans difference ultimately. But when we started using this tool on a regular basis, every 3 months with all of our franchise owners and all of these variables, it really helped to identify in our heads, is this a new system or process, or is it improving an existing one? Because a lot of businesses make the mistake of only focusing on new.
Yes.
Right. And the old story, 10% more average purchase, 10% more frequency, 10% more times coming, frequency, average purchase, and what's the third one? Why am I missing the third one? You got the frequency, new customers. So 10% more customers, 10% higher purchase per customer, and 10% more frequency of visit typically doubles the profit of a retail operation. 10, doubles the profit. Well, it's just 10%. No, but there's a compounding factor.
Right.
And your fixed costs don't change for the most part. It's 10% more. Right. And so there's some incredible leverage that comes with optimization that I find most entrepreneurs forget all the time, present company included. Forget,
skip, don't want to do, because let's face it, new can be cool, and shiny object syndrome, even at our level, is still a thing.
Yep.
It's still out there.
100%. It's like since the last time you and I recorded, we have all these trophies up here. See these things? These are, I'm so excited to tell you about it. These are our clients' success trophies, a copy of them that I got for me to put on my shelf. They received on their end, 100,000 in sales, $250,000 in sales, $500,000 in sales, $1 million in sales, $1 million in sales. Like, it's clients that have our clients that have generated, in this case, 4 million in sales in the last 6 months. And we're celebrating their success with trophies. Well,
awesome.
It's been on my, thank you. It's been on my list to do for like several years, and we've never done it. And we're getting a new client success director came on board, and he's like, what are you doing to celebrate wins? And we go, well, we send him an email and pat him on the back and go, well, what is that?
No. Let's do something more.
Yeah. So now we have these cool trophies that they get, they're super proud of, right? And we're recognizing the behavior we want repeated. Our clients winning. Like, duh. Well, that's an optimization process because we were recognizing them. We just weren't sending them $100 trophy
right
in the box and putting a sticker on it, doing an unveiling ceremony and all this cool stuff that we're doing now. Well, guess what? Now we're going to do it twice a year. It'll just be part of the system. And, the trophies might change. This might vary, but now we're doing it. Now it's part of it. And I actually have a number, $4 million in sales. Never had the number before. How much our clients sell. And our model, all of our pricing is linked to client success.
Right.
That's pretty freaking important as far as the operation goes. Like, what's the number? How are they getting? Because we tend to focus on the problem childs, right? Like, oh, that guy's not getting anywhere. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but what about the ones that are, right? We want to catch them succeeding and
celebrate that. Absolutely.
Celebrate that.
I love the trophy idea, by the way.
Yeah,
I think
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. It's our 2 Comma Club homage to Russell Brunson and the boys.
I was going to mention that, but I thought, no, I'm not going to bring him into this.
Yeah. It was inspired by that. We look and say, okay, who's the best at it?
And what I was going to say is
I
expect to see some posts with you and your clients holding up the trophy at your next event.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And we're getting headshots for that very purpose, so we can build it in and show it and have some fun with it. We're not gonna like wear it and beat people over the head with it, but it is part of the social proof equation.
Absolutely. And right? And like you said, the clients love it. I mean, they are super happy and super proud about it.
And this is where the whole point of this particular part of the discussion was optimization, right?
Right.
I just did our newest masterclass this week. And right now, Google reviews come to my inbox when someone posts a review in our Google corporate account. It comes directly in my messenger inbox. And so, which I'm happy to reply to because I just did the masterclass. So I'm like, oh, great. Glad to see you got value, John. Boom, done. Well, I just noticed this week we passed 100 5-star reviews on our corporate account on Google for our masterclasses.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, I had no idea because we just started adding that in a few months back. It wasn't a big part of our strategy, and they could send Facebook reviews or LinkedIn reviews or Google corporate reviews. We haven't done anything with them. So it was like awesome. And
optimization.
Gap. What are we doing, man? We're not even like as simple as embedding that review on our other web pages where they sign up for a masterclass, for Pete's sake.
Absolutely. Right? And I want to point out, I want to take this conversation back to this is a line item on the spreadsheet.
100%. In fact, literally, let me show you where that would fit in on our master one. We go to the big one here. Adding a wow experience, right? That's part of a wow experience, or it could be under lead generation, right? You could put it under lead generation. It's a lead generation strategy, or
it is using it for your other masterclass to promote your other masterclasses. Absolutely. Yeah.
Or it could be lead conversion, right? Increasing the conversion rates on the opt-in pages for the masterclasses. Like we've got testimonials there. We just don't have the dynamically integrated running total testimonials where people can click and go down deep.
There, I gotta point this out. We've got that on our website, and that has been one of the things I think, because I don't touch it anymore. It goes straight from the review to the website.
Love it.
And that has turned out to be just super. So highly recommend that.
Yeah. And not only that, for those of you that understand anything about SEO, Google loves that.
They do.
Right?
They absolutely do.
Dr. Google goes, whoop, whoop, whoop. We'll raise your values and more people will see it. Like it's such a, but once you start thinking in strategic planning world, that's what happens, right? You catch that, you see the gap. And then I have a system of flagging that. It's actually a special Slack folder. We love our Slack, a special Slack folder where we literally throw every idea up among the senior team. And by the way, that's a really helpful tip. Have a spot that's super easy for your senior team or anyone, frankly, to throw improvements up. Just throw ideas up, because you don't want to deal with every idea every time it comes up.
Right.
It's just not, it's too much. And that's what this whole matrix is about. This matrix is about putting a system in place to prioritizing what you're doing to improve your business rather than reactively doing it, which is what most of us do. Let's face it, right?
Yeah.
Most of us react. Oh, we didn't make enough money last month. Let's go get some clients. Right.
Mm-hmm. Let's throw out a bunch of ads. Let's do something, let's do the Hail Mary pass because we hadn't sat down and we hadn't done the worksheet.
Or, throw some more money at Facebook philanthropy, right? Donate more money to Bezos because we got to pay for his next rocket trip.
But my point is, taking it back to the spreadsheet, is this is organization that I don't see hardly anybody doing. This is a method of organizing, planning, prioritizing that forces you to look at all parts of your business, new and existing. Yep. And I mean, I coach lots of business owners, lots of new entrepreneurs. Nobody does this.
No.
I mean, the best they have is a list. That's the closest people come to this. And this is super simple, super easy. I mean, you do need to put in the work, like you said in the beginning. You do need to put in the work to build the data, to put the data in, but then use it. I mean, I'm going to start using this. I didn't realize how simple and powerful this thing is.
It's such a killer tool. And I knew when we talked about it in the last podcast interview, when it came up, I knew you'd love this because your background, because you got that combination of marketing and finance brains, both highly wired, right? And it takes that, frankly, to appreciate the power of this. It's the pure financial sides, like why we spend all the time on this, and the pure marketing side. Let me just go do it, man. I don't need to talk about it. Let's just do it.
Go sell something. Yeah.
Right. But it's that combination of, let's be smart about what we're doing. All right. And by the way, it also leads to some fascinating, for those that have strategic partners, it leads to some fascinating ability to manage your partners. I had a call yesterday. We had done a strategic planning exercise on our next strategic alliance live with our partners, not our partner we run the event on, but just our partners. And we've identified a couple of gaps that we want the other partner to focus on, one in particular. Well, I happen to have a call set up right after that. That's why we're talking about it with that person. Half the call was on, okay, what can we do, George, to focus on this next time? How can I help you free up resources so you can do that and crush this thing that last time it sucked? It was a 1 out of 10 and we want to make it a 10 out of 10. And because we know that particular thing, in this case, will triple our attendance. Triple. One thing.
Wow.
So it was great because he was like, oh my God, I would love that. He was totally empowered, right? But it was because it was in the context of the impact it has on the big picture. If I was just focusing on why the hell didn't you do this right last time? What are you doing? You think you'd be empowered, right?
No, he'd want to get off. You want to go do something else.
Yeah, and this guy's a survivalist. He'd be hunting me down with his rifle. Like, no way, man. I don't want any of that. So it has some other big downstream advantages when everyone is on the same page. These are the top 3 initiatives we're working on right now. Period. When other great ideas come up, great. We'll put them in the strategic planning bucket. We'll put them in the bucket. We'll come to it and we'll go later. So I'm a huge fan. Highly encourage people to use this tool. And obviously, if you're tuning in on the podcast or the video version of this, if you get stuck, reach out to Tad or myself, and we'll be happy to take you through it all. I don't have an opt-in page for it, so I'll just give you the tool itself because it probably should be an opt-in thing that we actually market. probably would be a great list builder.
I won't even go into developing a training and selling it and a course. And you could
maybe we do a joint venture later. We'll put that on our grid.
Absolutely, that sounds like a definite.
I mean, this literally, you see it right away. Every entrepreneur, if they applied this discipline once a quarter, would dramatically change the result of their business.
Oh, and I want to throw this in there, and because the simplified version triggered this idea, I was going to put it somewhere, is that you start small. Don't start with the big one. You don't have to do it because a lot of people will get intimidated by that.
Yep.
Oh, I got to enter in 300 numbers. No, they're just not going to do it. But, I got to enter in 15 numbers and then 45 numbers and then 100. And you can grow this thing, scale it, however it works, but you could expand it as your abilities and your enthusiasm, and your business expands.
Yeah. Yeah. It can literally take, you can have a dozen variables and you can figure out, okay, which one's the highest priority. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just which one I think, my gut. Now you get out of gut and think into some rationale behind it.
You've got some data. That's one of the things I really like about it is you got data. You've got a number that says, no, you rank this one at the bottom, so stop working on it. Yeah. Go do the one at the top.
It happens all the time we do it. There are initiatives that we're chomping to build and grow. And when we rank it, we go, oh, dang.
Maybe we didn't like that quite so much.
It happens all the time because invariably, here's what happens. One of those 4 bottom line things, it sucks with.
Yeah.
Like it takes a whole bunch of cash or a whole bunch of senior team manpower or a whole bunch of like some variable, or it's not fun. It's super good, but it's just not fun. Sucks the life out of everyone. It's like, well, we focus on it. We're going to suck the life out of everyone. That slows momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm a huge fan. Love it. Tons. I'm so glad that you were inspired to reach out and do an entire episode on it. And I think we've done our job and made it clear for people how to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. And like you said, anybody has any questions on this, I'll include links to examples. They can download and copy, reach out to myself, reach out to Tom with questions. Love to engage with you on this. I mean, I think this is an awesome tool and can lead to a lot of other things as well. So any questions, let us know. Thanks everybody for attending. Tom, thank you very, very much. This is by far one of my top podcasts I think I will ever do.
Well, and I can't wait to get the recording of this because this hour will be great for our team as a training tool. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Again, thanks everybody for listening. Have a safe and productive week and be the very, very best at whatever it is that you're doing. Until next time, this is Tad Stevens with Micro Success Secrets. Bye for now.